What's going on, everybody? It's GameUnboxingReviews here, and welcome back to another Venom movie news update. So in today's video, I'm going to be breaking down the recently released trailer. I'm going to be showcasing what you might have missed in this trailer, but I'll also be sharing some of my theories on where I think the story's going to go. So without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so first off, here of course we can see Eddie Brock trying to interview Dr. Carlton Drake, who Eddie refers to as the evil person. So this guy clearly doesn't have the best reputation. Now before we talk about the interview itself, I just have to say that I love how the movie is actually showing Eddie as a reporter. You know, we see that he follows people that do not want to be followed, and of course asks all of the questions that people in Drake's line of work would absolutely refuse to comment on. So in the interview, Eddie asks Drake to comment on the allegations that the Life Foundation recruit the most vulnerable people to participate in experiments that eventually end up killing them. And of course, Drake immediately stops the interview and even goes as far to say, "You're finished, Mr. Brock." Now, personally, I believe this is more than just a threat, because up until that point, Eddie looks pretty happy in his life. So if I'm right and this guy can get Eddie fired on the spot, then he must be a pretty powerful person. Here we get our very first look at Jenny Slate. Now, obviously, her character's name is still unknown, and we really don't know much about this character as is, except for the fact that she of course works at the Life Foundation, and she will obviously be Eddie Brock's way into the building after the interview. So she's clearly going to be a very helpful ally to Brock in this story, and I can definitely see the two teaming up to basically expose the Life Foundation for all their terrible crimes. Now in the trailer we see this guy screaming as he's being tested on, but these computers are actually monitoring none other than Eddie Brock, so these are completely different scenes. Now as some of you may know, the symbiote's two main weaknesses are sonic and heat-based attacks, and as we can see from the left monitor it says decibels and the middle monitor says frequency, so it looks to me like the Life Foundation might actually be trying to use very high frequencies as a way of removing the symbiote from Eddie. This scene definitely gives you quite a jump at first, but the question is, who is this mysterious woman? Well, I couldn't say for sure, but personally, I really hope it turns out to be Donna Diego, who in the comics is actually a security guard for the Life Foundation, and eventually becomes the host to the symbiote known as Scream. And as we see in this trailer, Carlton Drake is not afraid to experiment on his own employees, so this could definitely be her. Now, what's even creepier than this mysterious woman jumping at Brock is I think she's actually biting him, because afterwards Eddie feels really sick, but more importantly his eyes turn completely black because of the symbiote. So this woman's bite might have actually inserted the symbiote into Eddie's body. You know, it's not just an alien costume, it's now internally part of him, which is really cool. Here we see a really cool scene in the trailer where Venom says his first words, those being the name of his current host, Eddie. I absolutely love the fact that the symbiote has a voice and that Eddie hears it in his head. That is just so cool. And may I just say that the voice Venom has is absolutely perfect. I'm not quite sure who is voicing the character in this film. You know, many people have speculated on the possibility of Tom Hardy actually voicing Venom, and I can definitely see that. You know, Tom is great at changing his voice, and if that is him voicing Venom as well as playing Eddie Brock, then he's doing an amazing job, and I can't wait to hear more. I also kind of hope that this scene was unfinished. It would actually be really cool if when Venom says Eddie's name, Eddie sees Venom in the mirror, you know, kind of similar to that deleted scene that never made it into Spider-Man 3. That would be a really cool addition to the film. What can I say about this scene? I mean, it speaks for itself. It's completely epic. We see the symbiote protecting a defenseless Eddie, and even when his back is turned, it still manages to take the goon out. And the little confused "why would we do that" at the end is just so cool. Why would we do that? It's just so perfect. I love it. And I have to say that the sight of the tendrils reminded me of Venom from the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. And while it's not at all Marvel related, I got serious Prototype vibes from this scene. Now originally I thought these were just drones, but when you pause the trailer you can see that they actually look like mini rockets, so the Life Foundation must be using some serious firepower to take down Eddie and retrieve the symbiote. Now this is an interesting scene because here we see Eddie negotiating with Venom, stating that if they are to stay together, then Venom can only hurt bad people. But of course, Venom instantly proves to Eddie that he can do whatever he wants, which clearly shows that the symbiote is very much in the driver's seat. You know, Eddie is practically in the trunk. He literally has no control whatsoever over what Venom does. Here, of course, we see an extended version of the scene that we saw in the movie's teaser trailer, but this, of course, confirms everyone's theory that the cars crash because the symbiote hits them with its tendrils. That was kind of expected, but it's still cool to see it in action. This is a very quick scene in the trailer, but I absolutely love the fact that Eddie just smashes through this tree branch. You know, it just goes to show, even without the Venom costume, Brock is still very strong with the symbiote inside him, which is really cool. Quick thing I wanted to showcase here, I'm fairly certain that this scene connects to the tendril scene in Eddie's apartment that we talked about before. You know, you see Eddie attack Drake's men, he hears more of them coming up the stairs, so he jumps out the window, lands perfectly fine, realizes that he's not hurt, and then quickly gets onto his motorcycle, which would then of course lead into the chase scene where he uses the tendrils as he's driving the motorcycle. Here we see Anne Weying looking pretty shocked as she looks up, and it's kind of impossible to determine just what she's looking at, but maybe she's actually seeing Eddie's chase on the news, or perhaps even his transformation. Who knows, maybe the building she's in has a glass ceiling, and she's just looking up at Eddie fighting the movie's villain. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Now this shot is kind of cool because here we see Eddie do a wheelie on his bike, fly off it, and then of course the symbiote actually saves him by pulling him back to his bike. Those tendrils are definitely coming in handy. Now the last shot in the trailer is of course the money shot, the moment we've all been waiting for, an official look at Venom in this movie. Now before we talk about his design, we have to talk about how awesome his transformation is. We see the symbiote oozing all over Eddie's body, and eventually Venom's entire face folds over Eddie's, and as the teeth connect, he says that iconic line, "We are Venom." And here he is, the lethal protector in all his glory. I mean, just look at him. He's got the eyes, which some people apparently think are too small, which I can definitely understand because obviously there's been a lot of different versions of the character over the years, but personally I see no problem with them here. I think they actually look really cool on this design. The teeth, they look absolutely amazing. I mean, the attention to detail there is insane, but the tongue, I mean, wow, just wow, that thing has been ripped straight out of the comics. There's even saliva dripping from it. I mean, the little details there are just so cool. What more could you possibly want from this design? It's amazing. We even get an extremely cool look at the design from this brand new poster, which just looks so awesome. And before I forget, as for Roland Treece, well, let's just say that I think Venom is hungry and that the Life Foundation are probably on the menu. Now, one thing that everyone has been wondering since this movie was announced is what will Venom have on his chest? Many hope for the classic symbol from the comics, but it looks like we're actually getting white veins instead, which personally I'm actually really liking the look of so far. I think they look really cool, and thanks to Eric Davis from Fandango, we can see from this ice sculpture that Venom will have additional white veins all over his body, and we can clearly see that he's going to get very big in this movie, which is extremely exciting to see. Lastly, I know this shot is seen at the beginning of the trailer, but I wanted to leave it for the end of this video because I have a theory that I'd like to share with you all. So we first see that the symbiote is found in a crashed space shuttle and then sent to the Life Foundation, which leads us into an extended version of the symbiote shot from the teaser trailer. Now the first symbiote is clearly black, so this has got to be the one that Eddie Brock bonds with, but the second, however, looks to be blue, and I have an idea of who might be consumed by that symbiote in this film. So we can clearly see from this trailer that Eddie Brock and Carlton Drake don't like each other. You know, Eddie is trying to expose the Life Foundation, but more importantly, he's stolen the symbiote. So Drake is obviously going to send as many people as possible to retrieve it and take down Eddie. But of course, we all know that's not going to happen. Everyone Drake throws at Eddie will be no match for Venom's brute strength. So I can definitely see him bonding with the blue symbiote as a last resort, you know, fighting fire with fire. Alright guys, that's pretty much it for this video. Now personally, I really enjoyed this trailer because it didn't give too much away. I mean, I feel like we've seen just the beginning of the movie because, you know, we see the symbiote being discovered, Eddie being consumed by it, the Life Foundation won it back, and then of course we see Venom potentially eat Roland Treece. I'd like to think that there's hopefully a lot more Venom in the film after that point, but of course we will just have to wait and see. Anyway guys, as always, I want to thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for lots more videos real soon, and as always, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe.